Okay, we're back here on Overtime, and I'm going to give you guys the first shot to respond to the editorial, because I'm sure you were sitting there stewing as I was saying that the Republican Party is the party of fantasy. But your rebuttal?
It's a speech I've heard Republicans give about Democrats my whole life. So, you know, I mean, that's the debate we have, right? Which side is being fiscally fantastic?
I know, but one side more has the facts on their side. I mean, if you don't believe in global warming, then you're going against every scientist in the world.
Except that temperatures haven't increased for the last 10 years.
That's completely wrong. See what I mean about facts? They have it's been the hottest year ever. Like 8 of the last 10 years are the hottest years ever. Where are you getting this? Where are you getting this?
It's the data.
Seriously, it's in the paper every day. I'm not trying to make funny. I'm just saying we must not be reading the same language. You know, you don't really think global warming is happening and man-made?
No, I don't.
That there's any climate change.
Okay. But you do. But do you concede that 90-something percent of scientists do think that?
There's a lot of politicization of the climate science.
Yeah. No, there isn't.
There absolutely is.
There's,
I hear this all the time. The scientists are paid off. That's why scientists are buying mansions and wearing fur coats.
There's a lot of politicization of the Talk to my old professor at MIT, Richard Lindzen. He's one of the people who audits this data pretty considerably, and he makes a persuasive case that it's not persuasive.
I just keep looking for the strings that are moving around.
No. You know what you really need to do, I think, is if you could get both sides of this to agree, well, okay, who are the references that we're going to say? Who are the gold standards? Instead of arguing what those...
The gold standards are the climatologists, the scientists, and they're all on the same side. And by the way, 20 years ago, your party did not deny it was happening. That wasn't the position of the Republican Party in the Bob Dole era. It was cap and trade, which is now the Democrat position. What happened? How did we go from it's happening to now it's not happening at all?
Well, there's a couple of different points, right? There is temperature variability, and what's causing that, right? So is it being caused by man? We don't know. It might be being caused by man. And then there's the question of if it is being caused by man, if it's true that computer models by climate scientists can predict to the second decimal point in 2053 that temperatures will increase by 0.5 centigrade.
No, that's not
what can we do about that? What are are we going to spend $100 billion?
You would say that there is, you suggested that there was variability. So you do say that there is climate change. You might not say that there's global warming, but you do say that there is climate change happening.
Global temperatures go up, they go down. There's accuracy issues.
We're getting more extreme. We're getting, scientists will go to the Arctic and see that.
Scientific consensus, though. I mean, we're only humans. We will never have a perfect answer because there will be no God who comes down and says, this is the answer. So we can only go by consensus, which means like 100 years ago, everyone didn't believe in Darwin's theory. And then there was an overwhelming consensus.
We bled people because we thought
so if we have over 90% of the people who are trained in the field, so it's 90% of the like 0.001% of the people who are knowledgeable. Isn't that overwhelming?
You know, Bill, I don't...
I actually think that the media here have a responsibility because the tradition has been for the anchors to just basically present both sides of the global warming story. So those who don't believe on one side and those who believe on the other, as though there's an equivalence.
That was Thomas Friedman had the great line. He said if they came out for one side said the world was flat, the headline in the paper would be, two sides disagree on size and shape of world.
Yeah, and Bill is right. I mean, the overwhelming number of scientists in this field will say that there is climate change happening and that the globe is warming, that waters are rising.
And it was man-made.
And that it is man-made, and that there is a dispute, even as Paul Ryan has said, there is a dispute about what you can do about it. And there is some dispute about what you can do about it. But the facts, according to the science, are, you will find some scientists who disagree, but the vast majority will tell you that there is global warming happening.
And
I think the whole point...
the things we can do about it would be great for our economy, too. Alternative sources of energy are not just good for...
All I can say is your rebuttal has not convinced me.
But what Arianna's saying, I agree with. If you move to, well, what are some of the solutions? Because everybody wants less air pollution and, you know, I mean, we can get together on a lot of these things, alternative energy. I still think we should drill our own doggone oil and I don't want to take this opportunity to remind you that when Obama was elected in January '09, gas was $1.83 a gallon. That would be cheap for me to remind you.
But you just did it.
But is it really, is that the president's fault? Is he personally out there?
I think he's drug on a lot of permitting.
Out there with the long pole in front of the station, moving the... Come on, I
put
mean,
it this way.
there's nothing
he
to
sure
do with it.
He sure would claim credit if it went down $1 a gallon.
But Jack, trace it back to me. Trace it back to me how it's his fault. Just give me that thread.
Because making the permitting process more cumbersome, taking longer in the duration, and issuing less permits. I mean, there is a supply and demand. If you choke off the supply,
but he's the one who opened up more drilling in the Gulf of Mexico. The liberals hated him. Remember that? They all hated him for that. It was right before the thing blew up in the Gulf. Right?
Actually, one of the main reasons we've had a
and
spike
he
in
withdrew
oil
all
prices.
that too, though. One
of the main reasons we have a spike in oil prices is because there's the possibility of some kind of war with Iran and instability in the Middle East. The person that has been saying, tamp this down, it is irresponsible to talk about strikes against the Iranians, is actually in the White House.
Let's
so
take
he's...
this,
You know,
let's take this on the macro.
I mean,
Right.
it's supply and demand. You increase your supply, and the price is going to go down, and he has not done anything to increase the supply.
Actually, the supply has gone up under him. That's another fact.
No,
The supply, it has.
Let's take this on the macro level. So, you know, if we really believe that industrialization is the cause of global warming, then what you're really saying is Africa can't become part of the developed world. You're saying that India shouldn't be a developed country because if Africa develops, India develops, that's what environmentalists are doing. They're saying
I'm not following this argument.
countries can't become part of the developed world because if they do, they're going to pollute more. They're going to consume more fossil fuels. They're going to use more energy. They're going to do all the things that the environmentalists oppose. So what we're really saying is we're consigning all of them to poverty. We're not going to allow them to become prosperous countries.
But wait, this is a false argument. Like, if we don't use fossil fuels, you're consigned to poverty. That's ridiculous.
Do you think solar panels are going to fuel the world energy demand?
They will someday, of course.
No way.
Why?
They won't lift.
It's like saying 100 years ago. Do you think cars are going to replace horses? How ridiculous! Of course they are.
Until solar energy is magical unicorns and can power the world's energy
It's
supply,
not
Africa should be
magic.
poor.
Well, first of all, it's
position.
happening in other countries around the world. China is doing it already. Of course, India is doing it already.
It's not efficient. That's why Solyndra went bankrupt.
Nothing is efficient at first.
It's the most subsidized form of energy there is. And the least, I know Democrats hate to hear it, but the least subsidized energy is fossil fuel.
But the internet didn't come into existence perfect at the beginning.
Hey, I want to get back to what Arianna said because I found some level for agreement here.
Always looking, Jack. You gotta love Jack. He's always looking.
I don't want to be mad at my country anymore.
No.
But you know, an all of the above energy strategy is sound, and it has lots of political consensus. And you know, I have supported research at the University of Georgia for algae and for non-edible sweet potatoes. And you know, there's a lot of good things that are out there that we are investing in. But I think at the same time,
Algae.
Yes, sir.
Come on, that must be bullshit, right, man? I mean, if solar power's cuckoo, this guy is just off the rails with algae.
Any plant
Jack, what a hippie. Algae?
Yeah, it comes out every now and then. You know, but any plant that has sugar in it, you can get energy out of, and that's what Brazil's doing with sugarcane right now. So, I mean, there are things that we can do.
All right. We didn't get to one question, but it was fun. Thank you, folks. Thank you. See you next.
Real Time with Bill Maher. Ask Bill and his guests your questions right after the show at HBO.com.